first, this wonderful news out of Iran that Kylie Moore-Gilbert has been released after 2 years. What do you know about her status and when she will be home?
Well, Laura, let me just say that we welcome greatly that Dr. Kylie Moore-Gilbert has been released after 2 years of detention. We have consistently rejected the charges against her and acknowledge that she and her family have shown great courage and forbearance, and we do hope that very soon she will be able to be reunited with her family.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of support do you think she needs when she returns home? And we have to, again, pay tribute to the diplomats that have worked so hard to get her released as well.
Absolutely, Laura. We very much acknowledge the diplomatic efforts and all of those who have worked to secure this very good outcome for Dr. Kylie Gilbert Moore. Can I just say that our hearts go out to her, and I think one of the most important things is that we give her and her family the time and the space that they need and the privacy that they need after this traumatic ordeal. And I am quite confident that they will have the support that they need as well, and we anticipate that the Australian government will be providing that support.
Okay, you are in Canberra today for the COVID committee, and you'll be hearing from Australians that are stranded abroad. There is a plane arriving from Singapore today, but there's still how many Australians stranded in your estimation? I think it was around 30,000?
Laura, it's not my estimation, it's the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's numbers, and it's 36,000 Australians, stranded Australians across the globe in the middle of a global pandemic with the Northern Hemisphere winter approaching. And these are Australians who have been trying to get home since March. These are Australians who were buoyed in September when the Prime Minister promised he would get them all home by Christmas. Well, since he's made that promise, the list has only increased. In fact, the first publicly available figures back in August were that there were about 18,000 stranded Australians. Now we've had an 89% increase in that list of people. And the Commonwealth is doing very little to get all of these people home by Christmas. If the Prime Minister is going to make a promise back in September to stranded Australians, to our fellow mates, that he's going to have them home by Christmas, he needs to deliver on it. Quite frankly, I find this whole situation infuriating. We have, Laura, people who are stranded overseas, who are losing their jobs, who are losing their houses back in Australia, who have been told by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to go to homeless shelters, and yet the Commonwealth government is doing almost nothing. The Morrison government is doing so little to move so many tens of thousands of Australians back home during this global pandemic.
Well, what should it be doing? There's not a lot of commercial flight options at the moment. Do you think it should be sending military planes overseas, and where?
Yeah, Laura, if we can send a military plane to shoot Mathias Cormann around the globe so that he can apply for a new job, surely we can send out military planes to bring our fellow Australians home. I mean, what kind of government is this that has one rule for them and their mates and a whole nother rule for everyone else that just leaves stranded Australians behind? Now, Jane Halton, the Prime Minister's hand-picked expert, over a month ago, handed a review of hotel quarantine to Scott Morrison. And in that review, she makes several sensible recommendations about how to expand quarantine capacity, how to apply better risk management, and specifically that the Commonwealth should stand up a Commonwealth federal quarantine facility for surge capacity, a human health response zone, she calls it. She says and makes the point that these stranded Australians are facing the Northern Hemisphere winter when COVID is going to be more of a risk. And she makes some very clear suggestions on how, recommendations on how to get these people home back through Australia. Now, flight capacity isn't the biggest constraint. Quite frankly, the biggest constraint is quarantine. It is a federal responsibility. Jane Halton makes that clear, and she makes a very clear recommendation on what Scott Morrison should be doing. Radio silence from our Prime Minister since he's received that report.
So would you offer bipartisan support for quarantine facilities to be set up, whether they are in Tamworth, as Barnaby Joyce has offered this morning, or Darwin or other remote areas?
Laura, we've been calling for this
Who should bear the cost for the flight and the quarantine?
Laura, we have been... Laura, we have been calling for this for months. We put a motion through the Senate that was passed by the Senate calling for this. We have been saying for months this is a growing problem. Scott Morrison made a big promise back in September, and yet again he didn't deliver. This is so emblematic of this Prime Minister. Big promise, no delivery, and leaving Australians behind, literally leaving 36,000 Australians stranded around the globe. Now, the Commonwealth have the resources to do this. They have put some resources into it. I acknowledge the one plane that's arrived today. Fantastic. Let's get lots more planes, but more importantly, let's get a federal quarantine facility set up so that we can get these people home through quarantine and back to their families by Christmas.
And just quickly, who should bear the cost?
Laura, we've got a Commonwealth government. We've got stranded Australians who are willing to put up their hands and pay a reasonable cost to get home. Right now, they're facing charges of $8,000, $10,000, $20,000. We've had stranded Australians in front of the COVID committee who've told us they have spent $50,000, $60,000 on flights that have been cancelled.
Yeah.
Now, come on. These people are willing to pay a reasonable cost. The Commonwealth government has a responsibility to do what the governments of Canada, the UK, even Donald Trump sent out planes and brought his citizens home during this global pandemic. Our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, promised it, but he has not done it.
Just finally and quickly, you would have seen Meghan Markle's essay, and you have spoke and got so much change through Parliament when it comes to stillbirths and conversations about miscarriage. So her intervention today in her private pain is encouraging that conversation, isn't she?
She is, and I pay great tribute to the Duchess of Sussex for speaking so honestly, so starkly, so movingly. I myself was taken back to the day that my daughter Caroline was diagnosed and it was clear she was going to die. And I have to say, every time we have someone who is willing to speak about this grief, about this pain, it just enables it for so many other Australian families to be able to talk openly, to be able to heal, and to be able to acknowledge their children. I think one of the most difficult questions for a mother who has lost a baby, whether through stillbirth or miscarriage, is how many children do you have? And about 10 years ago, I decided I was just going to start saying that I had 3, because I do. And what Meghan Markle has done, I think, will create a lot of conversations for families, for friends, and hopefully for governments and public health systems and doctors and nurses to be able to talk more openly with expectant mothers about the things that can happen in pregnancy and the ways that they can prevent it. Right now in Australia, we are finally rolling out what we call the Safer Baby Bundle that is aimed to reduce stillbirth in pregnancy. We've got a draft National Action Stillbirth Plan that arose out of the Senate Select Committee on stillbirth. There are things that we can tell parents that we're still not telling them, though, in pregnancy that can help reduce the risk of stillbirth. It's good to see this work starting, and hopefully what the Duchess has done today encourages it.
Kristina Keneally, thank you.
Thank you.